Center, and we are a local mission that is all about community revitalization. So we're modeled after the LA Dream Center, however, we don't have a housing aspect. So some of the ministries that we are currently doing is we have a food distribution center. It's not one where people walk in, we bring the food to them. So we're going into the places where the unreachable places under the bridges, and we're in there's 5 pockets of poverty in Pinellas County. We're into and working on going into the 3rd part. And so what we do is we go door to door and say, how can we serve you? So whether they need their house painted or they're getting cited from a zoning violation, we repair and do all the work for free. And so we're trying to give people a hand up. So they get a food box once a month, they get clothing, health and beauty supplies. We're the homeless, we're reaching them as well. And so that is one part of it. And it's through our Adopt a Block program, which is modeled after so the food pantry is a big driving force. The Adopt a Block program is a big driving force. We also have partnership with the Juvenile Welfare Board, and we are a hub for faith-based organizations to distribute prepackaged long shelf life food for children. So that is a huge thing, because childhood hunger is a very big thing in Pinellas County and all over, I'm sure. And so that's another one of our missions. We've been in existence since 2014, actively serving the communities. And then we also have, trying to think of what else, don't want to miss anything, until we get to the one that I'm working on currently. I'm the program coordinator for Restored. And this is a new program. And one of our focuses is on human trafficking. And because we know it is such a prevalent in our own neighborhoods going on, we wanted to be part of the solution, not just the awareness, but the solution. So some of the things that we do is we go into the largest women's prison over in Ocala. We do presentations once or twice a year to those that are going to be released within 6 months. And so we're just educating women that, you know what, you don't have to go back to that life. We have resources out here. We have partnerships in which we're willing to help get you into a safe place so that you don't have to go back to that lifestyle. The other thing is we started, the Florida Dream Center also started built a brand new boys home for boys that have been human trafficked, and that is in Pasco County. So that was a really neat thing. The government helped us. They wanted us to be a pilot program to continue to build more homes around the United States. And we also had another, in Guatemala, we're working with the national law enforcement there on the human trafficking aspect as well. We have a feeding center there that feeds over 300 children in per meal. And so, you know, we got a lot of things going on, but the one that our newest program is called Restored, and it is for women who have been sexually traumatized, whether it be human trafficking, prostitution, whether it be rape or childhood sexual abuse. And so what it is these women get stuck from the time of their trauma, and it's really hard for them to move on, and sometimes they rely on addiction. Sometimes they rely on very unhealthy relationships and coping skills. And so what we do is we have a 4-week curriculum that we bring women into a safe environment. We teach them computer skills, we teach them organizational skills, time management, and sewing, and how to run machinery, you know, power tools. And so we refurbish furniture. And so it gives them a sense of accomplishment, and it builds their self-esteem. And while they're in our presence, we have an art therapist that comes in twice a month, and we have a Christian counselor on staff for them, for their access if they choose to. So and that's not all. We have other entities, and, partners and providers that are helping us to love on these women. And then once they complete the the program, they get a certificate of completion, and then we can point them to some of our partners to help them to get gainful employment if they don't choose to stay on with us and work off the commission. We obviously can't employ all of them. But I do want to just take a moment, but with me is Erica, and she's our first graduate. So, that's the cool thing, is we're making a difference. And so we're waiting. We're on a pending relationship with Baldwin's Women's Residence, and that's through the St. Pete Free Clinic. And we are forming a partnership in which they're going to start sending their women over so that we can train them. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. So thank you for letting me share.
Good morning. Mine is just a praise report on what Dr. do in your life for me. He hasn't already done it because he has a plan and purpose for all of us. I came to the Lord only in 1990, and by 1994, after going through Countryside Christian's Bible School and off the mission conference, Pastor was in charge at that time, and we've been friends ever since. But from there in 1994, he sent me to Mongolia. That was 23 years ago, and he has did tremendous things in that country. There's only 2.5 million Mongolians, but about a third of them are now Christian. Many pastors and Mongolian pastors have little churches everywhere, and what missionaries go over there now go out of the city into the IMAX. IMAX is like a state here. But when I first went, he used me with the children because being so new as a missionary, I think he just thought it's more fun and better for me to work with the children. So I worked with the CP children. They were hidden in that country. So by the time he got done, they had a school, first one in their history, and now they have 3. And they also have the opportunity like anybody else. So that's a wonderful thing. He also sent me to work in the Mother Children's Hospital after that. We put in playrooms because those children, when I went to that hospital, were staying in one little bitty bed, couldn't get out of it, period, for any reason. And you know how a child is when he's sick. He just feels much better if he could get around and do something. So the Lord put playrooms in, and we put in children's Bibles in their language. And we had volunteer elderly people, the moms, come and watch the playrooms and pray with the children. Even though it was a Buddhist country, it was communist also because Russia had taken them. But now it was open, and it's still open. And God is still at work, and I have one of a Mongolian pastor and his wife, and they are working outside in the place that God gave me. And they are training up other leaders in the area to pray, because it's difficult. These people don't know about prayer. And so he's teaching them to pray. Then he's also bringing them into the kingdom. So when I'm here, work is just, God just lets me know that my cup is running over. Work is continuing in that country. And I always enjoy coming back home, because then I can do things here in this country while I'm here. He leads me to do Helping Hands ministry, where I'm a counselor, bringing people into the kingdom before they get distributed with their necessities of life, food and clothing. And then he's led me to nursing homes, and I just really love to go into the nursing homes, because it seems to me that these people are ready to go and they don't know. And so when you bring them into the kingdom before they go, it's so rewarding and fulfilling. there's so much to do in this country because it's so different from over in another country. Now, I know he sends the young ones and other ones off to many, many countries, but for me, it's just the one. So I want to thank you all for being here and supporting Pastor. And missions is so important, no matter what God's doing. Remember, no matter what your age is, He can send you too.
Amen.
Just thinking of another couple that was called in their retirement years, Bob and Joyce Coder. Many of you know them. Amen. Our final exhibitor is myself. Not only do I do missions and outreach here at the church, my wife and I also run the Ultimate House of Prayer. Next month, actually a month from today, will be our 2-year anniversary doing that. And we just, back when we were pastoring in 2005, the Lord started to speak House of Prayer to us. We didn't really understand what that was at the time. And we just kind of, in fear, stepped out and started doing other things. And God finally called us back to that. We spent 2 years with Tenny and Pam Olson up in Tallahassee at the International House of Prayer up there getting training, and then came back 2 years ago and started the Ultimate House of Prayer. And basically, we just want to be a place where we build an altar that's bigger than the altar that the enemy has. Amen. And our hope and desire is that we raise up intercessors and prophetic worshipers, young people that we can thrust into the nations. I just really have this burden to see that happen. You know, so many of you that work within the Muslim people groups or that part of the world understand that there's a prayer culture of 1.5 billion people. They have a prayer culture where they're praying 5 times a day. And I think that's what's caused this brass heaven over the 1040 window. And I think that only young people or people with an understanding of what a prayer culture and a prayer life is being thrust into those places that can combat that in prayer. I think that's the way that brass heaven is going to crack and come down. Amen. So we meet now twice a week. We're actually meeting here on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock in the youth building over here. And we just have a time of just prophetic worship and intercession. We also meet on Tuesdays at 11:30 for a midday set, just to have an opportunity to give people who want to come out during the middle of the day a time to come and worship and pray. And we also go into a lot of surrounding churches in the area. We support some other houses of prayer in the area as well, helping them do different things, worship sets and such as well. And right now, Tracy is in Washington, D.C. with a group of about 9 from the area, and she's also with Tenny and Pam Olson up there. There's a very large event happening this weekend called Awaken the Dawn. Tens of thousands of Christians have gathered from around the nation, and they've set up 50 to 60 tents in the National Mall in between the Capitol building and the Washington Monument, and kicked off last night with literally 4 solid days of 24/7 worship and prayer. And it's going to culminate on Monday with a big event called Rise Up the Call with Will Engel and some others, and where they're calling the women of the church to come together to stand. They said that they need to prepare like Esther and war like Deborah. And there's tens and thousands of people up there right now doing that. And that's right down in front of the White House. The president can look out his bedroom window and see what's going on. And also be praying for them as well. And we're just doing what God wants us to do at this season. So, Pastor Dan, I'm going to turn it over to
you. Wow. I'm always overwhelmed when I get in the company of the committed and have opportunity to hear your stories, and I can't wait to meet some of you and get to know a little bit more about who you are and what God's doing. This weekend is my favorite time of the year. Better than my birthday, better than Christmas, better than any other moment in time because of what it does for you. I think it's a good thing. And to also be willing to hear that voice, and maybe the Lord will tell you to stay, maybe the Lord will tell you to go, but I know He's given all of us to go, whether it's to go across the street, across the neighborhood, across the county, or across the sea. He's called all of us to go, and so now it became just vitally important for me to help educate the church and help everybody know and understand that we all have a part to play. And so I'm always delighted to be around you folks, to hear Al's story and how he sensed the call. When Yvonne walked into my office that day, shortly after she came to Countryside and had just been saved and really made that commitment to Christ and wanted to, she sat down and said, I'm with him now and I just want to do something with my life. And I said, well, what do you think you want to do? She said, I think I want to go do missions. Really? Have you ever been on a short-term mission trip? No. I said, well, let's start there, Yvonne. Go on a short-term mission. And she did. She went on a short-term mission trip. And that was with Pastor Lloyd, wasn't it? That first trip you did in the late 80s, probably, or early 90s. Yeah, 89 or 90. And is that when you got the baptism of the Holy Spirit on that trip? Yeah, came home with the baptism of the Holy Spirit, so now she's filled with the Holy Ghost. And it says, okay, I did that, now what? And I said, well, then you need to go to the training center and get training. And she said, I haven't been in school in years. And I said, well, Yvonne, if God's called you, he'll help you. And so she went to the training center and then went and did the 3-month outreach in the Dominican Republic and did that, came home and said, now what? And I said, well, where does the Lord want you to go, Yvonne? Have you been praying about that? And she said, well, yeah, and I met some people. And Father said, go to Mongolia. I said, what? Mongolia? Yvonne, do you know where Mongolia is? Do you know how cold it is in Mongolia? She said, well, Father told me to go. And so she went and did a couple of trainings with Youth with a Mission, became a part of a team. And I remember the day she came home after she finished her training. And if I'm wrong, correct me, Yvonne, if my memory lapses here on the details of the story, but I remember you saying to me that all of the team had gotten 6-month visas, but you only got a two-week?
No, they got 1 week, I got 2.
You got 2 weeks, and they all got 1-week visas. But she's getting ready to spend a lot of money to go on this trip, and I'm saying, Yvonne, are you sure? Because, 2 weeks, and she said, well, I said, I don't know. And she said, well, have you asked the Father? I said, no. I said, okay, well, I better ask the Father. And so I went and I prayed, and Pastor Lloyd and I prayed together. And we said, yeah, we need to release Yvonne. She's hearing the voice of the Lord. Let's stand alongside her. And got there, and then got a 6-month visa after that, or God made divine connections. And then you heard a little bit of the story of how she started working with children and in working with handicapped kids, and got connected her with a government official, and she had great favor there. Got extensions on her visas, and started these playrooms, and getting the gospel to these handicapped kids, their families, and then establishing a school for kids. And then I remember when you came home one year on furlough, and you told me that the Lord had called you to buy 2 camels and to go into the Gobi. The Gobi! The Gobi Desert, the tundra, the frozen tundra of Mongolia, to go to a village that hadn't heard the gospel. And so she bought 2 camels and a cart, and I think the church bought the tent, the gear, what was going to be the gear or the supplies for it or something. I know
The church gave money for it all.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And went however many miles it was out into the Gobi with 2 camels and a cart and a tent, and went into a village and just started sharing the gospel, planted a church there. And how old were you when you did that?
Oh, it was in my 70s.
You were in your 70s, and you went into the Gobi tundra of Mongolia to plant a church. Yeah, see, it's a dangerous thing when you say, Lord, here am I, send me. When you open up your heart, you say, okay, God, I'll go anywhere, I'll do anything, just as long as I know you're leading me. And so what this weekend is about for us as a church family, why we've invited you missionary exhibitors, first of all, we want to hear your story, and we want to celebrate you, and we want to stand alongside you and to support you in prayer and to be led of the Holy Spirit and how we can partner with you. we wanted to bring you together too, because I was hearing divine connections being made here. I mean, it's interesting to me, the Africa connection this year. You know, how you guys that are working in Africa and how there may be some partnerships there and things that God might put together. So part of what this is about is not only to hear what you're doing in the world and to celebrate what you're doing, and then to ask you to help us to educate our congregation and to help plant that seed and to fan the flame for the go, so that they will hear, because there are some here who don't know it yet, but they're called there somewhere, wherever that is. And so part of it is to fan that flame. Part of it is to minister to you, and which is why I pray and I ask the Lord to send us someone who can help minister the word of the Lord to us, to bring a word that would minister to you as servants of the Lord on the field, to the church family here, to inspire, to encourage you in what God is doing, and for us as a church to be a part of what God is doing in the world today, to bring the gospel to every creature, to every person. Because the name of the Lord should be made great everywhere. And it is not yet, but it will be done. Because there will come a moment in time when the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our Lord in Christ, and He will reign forever and ever. And I want to be a part of the generation that gets the job done. So that the gospel of the kingdom is preached to all peoples, and then the end will come. So as I like to say, and I've been telling the church for the past few weeks, let's get the job done so we can all go home. Amen. So I've known Pastor Dale Yurton, known of him from a distance, because when I would go to part of the fellowship that I'm a part of, Calvary Ministries International, now it's called CMI Global. But years ago, Dr. Pano would invite Dale to come and to share the word of the Lord. And I was always blessed and ministered. Last year, I went to the CMI conference that was in Ohio, and Pastor Dale was the keynote speaker. And it was one of those moments when heaven came down and kissed the earth and we were in the pucker. You know what I'm talking about? Where the word of the Lord you're hearing, you know, is God speaking to us and it ministered to us. I love to hear from men and women who are seasoned, who have experienced the Lord and seen what God has done over the years, and the fire is fresh in their hearts, still passionate. Pastor Dale has been in ministry over 50 years. He travels around the world. After I heard him speak at the conference last year, I came up to him after the last session and just said, "Is there any chance you would come to Florida to, a church that's just a couple of years old? You know, we're not a mega church. We have a mega heart and a mega God, but we're not a mega church. But would you come?" And he said, "I love coming to mission conferences, and I'd love to be with you. I've got a friend in Palm Harbor, So we're so delighted to have Pastor Dale, and so we've asked him to come and to share with us this morning, and then he'll also be sharing tonight and tomorrow morning, and he'll be sharing a different message in each of the services, so that church family, for those of you who come, you can really have an opportunity to be soaked in the word of the Lord. Would you please help me to welcome Pastor Dale?
Pastor Nick, it's such an honor to be with you today, and I have been inspired. You can always tell you have a missionary heart. Every missionary speaks, "Yeah, I'd like to help with that. I'd like to be a part of that." So I'm just thrilled that I'm here, and thank God for the call of God upon your lives. There's nothing that's more special, other than our own personal relationship with Jesus Christ, than the call of God upon our lives. It doesn't matter if we're 70 or if we're 17. It's what's important is that we are plugged in. We have found our place in the family of God. I appreciate Pastor Nick, a missionary pastor. It's refreshing, isn't it, missionaries, to come to a church that has a heart for the nations, because a lot of folks don't have that. They've missed that somewhere, and they're missing some of the best things in life by doing so. And so I have been in ministry since I was a boy. This will make 58 years that I've been preaching. I started as a young child evangelist when I was 11 years of age. And been traveling the world now for the last 30 years. And it's just been a wonderful, wonderful Christian journey. And I'm a teacher. In fact, what I'm going to be sharing today, I do have printed notes. We can make copies if anybody wants these, because I'm going to travel a little bit faster than I usually do this morning, to stay within the time frame here. But I'm a teacher, and I help to oversee a lot of churches. In fact, got a dear friend here in the area to be with me tonight, Kelly and Lenora, that live here in this area. And we're flying out tomorrow afternoon for Johannesburg, South Africa. We'll be flying overnight, getting in there on Monday evening, and then going on to Port Elizabeth to do a couple of conferences there. So anyway, I'm a teacher, and if you want the notes, we'll be happy to provide those for you. For the last several weeks, God's really been dealing with my heart on the story of the prodigal son. I preached as a young evangelist on the prodigal a few times, but not often, maybe 3 or 4 times over the years. But these last few weeks, God has just illuminated that story in my mind and spirit, and I actually have done 4 messages now on the prodigal, and I want to take one of those lessons that I'm calling a house, a field, and a far country. I won't take the time to read the story. You're familiar with that story about the young man, the younger of 2 sons, that said, I want my inheritance, give me what is mine. And then he took it, went to a far country, and wasted it. His father faithfully waited for him at the house, while his brother was faithfully working in the field. Now, I never paid attention to those 3 locations in this story. The 3 locations of the house, the field, and the far country, and yet they are very important to every one of us. The way we interact with those 3 places, they have an important part in every one of our lives. And so I want to talk about them and what these 3 places teach us about our relationship, not only with God, but our fulfillment of the purpose why we are here. Because none of us are accidents looking for a place to happen. God never said, uh-oh, when somebody was born, I wasn't expecting them. No, every one of them, our life is a gift from God. What we do with our life is our gift to God. And this is God's purpose for every one of us. So let me go through these quickly, and if I'm too quick, remember I have notes that I can share with you. Let's talk about the house. The house is where we meet our Father. The house, of course, that God is building is the church. The church. Not just a physical building. This is where the church meets, in this place. But we are the temple of God. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about the house. I'm going to give you 3 words to define what the house means in our life. The first word is the word love. That is the description of God. God is love. It is this love of God that produces the life of God within each of us. Just as in the natural, it is in the supernatural. As they say, all truth is parallel. If you can find it on one plane, then it's true on the next plane. And a young couple making a covenant of love, out of that covenant of love we call marriage, there's new life that is produced, that is born. The same is true with God and the house of God. It's in the house of God that we discover this life that God has given to us. And as I said, the house which God is building is the church. Or children that are displaced in life want so desperately to reconnect with their biological parents because there's something that's missing. That's their own personal identity. I don't have time to tell you the story, but there was a young man in my life that when he was able, as an adult, probably close to 50 years of age, in his 40s anyway, when he was able to reconnect with his mother's parents. She had died when he was young, his father abandoned him, and so he grew up in the foster care program, never knew anything about his family, who they were. But the transformation that took place in that man's life just by finding his biological grandparents on his mother's side of the family, it was like a born-again experience. He was a new individual. So it is there that we discover our identity and begin building our relationships with each other. Something else we discover is our gifts. You've been discussing about this, how that you got the Bible training, how that you had the missions trips, and all the different experiences that help you to discover the gift that was within you. That's true for every person, and if we're properly connected with the house, that will naturally take place within our life. The second word I want to talk about is the word cleanliness. Cleanliness, and this will become more clear as I go through this. But what we discover is the house is a clean place in a dirty world. Now, we get this mixed up a lot of times when we start trying to clean up the world. That's impossible. You can have an influence upon the world. We are salt and light to the world, but you're never going to clean it up. It's a dirty place. However, we can clean up the house. Now, everything works against us keeping a clean house, an orderly house. It just gets out of order. And as they say, a mother's work is never done because, it's all against that. However, we can clean up the house if we work to do that. And so cleanliness is an important part. And as I say here, we are cleansed by the Word of God and by the Holy Spirit. This is what Jesus said. Now are you clean through the Word that I have spoken to you. The third word that I'm going to use to describe the house is the word authority. Authority. Well, this is not just a problem in the world. This is a problem in the church. And if you've ever particularly tried to lead a group of preachers, it's like herding cats. I used to wonder where people got this rebellious attitude, that I think they learned it from us as leaders, We set the example a lot of times. Authority. It's in the house where we begin to receive our training for life. Something happens to that little angel that was born in your family that about 1.5 to 2 years of age, all of a sudden the little angel fires in their eyes and they stamp their foot and say, no. And from then on, it's the contest of wills between you. Authority. It's here that we learn these lessons. And the majority of what we do learn comes from the house. Medical science tells us that 50% of everything that we learn in life, we learn by the age of 5. I can't prove that, but I know one thing. The little guys are learning much quicker than anybody else. And everything that we learn today is built upon the foundation of what we learned yesterday. And so it's here that we begin this struggle with authority. Anybody that's ever been in a leadership position knows exactly what I'm talking about. The devil specializes in trying to get us to rebel, to resist the will of our Father. And the reason is because he knows if he can separate us from our Father's will, our Father's authority, we are easy victims to pick off. It's very easy for him to take care of us if he can separate us from our Father. And that was the big mistake that the younger son made. He went to the far country, which would have been a good thing if he went under his father's authority. His mistake was thinking he could do it alone. And we know what happened. And so it's a mistake for us to reject our Father's authority and leave the house. Oh my, I'm tempted to say a whole lot about that, but let me get to the second one. The second one is the word field. It's in the field where we meet our brother. We learn to interact with our brother. Now, let me give you 3 words to help you remember about the field. First of all, the word work. Work. The field is a dirty place. I don't know about you, but as a Christian, a sincere Christian, it used to trouble me so much, just dealing with people and all the problems, all the garbage, all the dirt. Anybody else ever had struggle with that? But what I discovered is you can come back to the house and in the presence of God, it's like taking a shower, just getting in God's presence and hearing the Word of God. It just cleanses you of all of that filth. The place that the field is located is between the house and the far country. It's basically where the church meets the world, the field. Now, it's very important for us to understand this, and I don't have time to develop all the thoughts that I have concerning this, but the truth is, the harvest does not happen in the house. The harvest always happens in the field. This is one of the mistakes I made as a young evangelist. I tried to plant seed in the house. That's not where you plant seed. You plant it in the field, you reap the grain, and then you bring it into the granary. You bring it into the house. This was the problem that I had. Now, I think one of the reasons, as I mentioned, some of us are troubled with the dirt that we have to deal with when you're dealing with the field. But the truth is, we get dirty, but we can get cleaned up. Just come back to the house and take a good bath, and you're going to be okay. You'll be fine. Here's the second word, the word reward. Reward. The truth is, God has given us this gift of life, but as I said, it's what we do with it. That's our gift to God. That's what God will reward. There's going to be no reward for us being Christians. We did not pay that price. Jesus paid that price. It cost me nothing to be a Christian. It cost him everything, his life. But it has cost me everything to become a man of God. That's the price that is paid. That's where the work is. See, we are saved by grace, but we will be rewarded for our works. Our works, that's what God is going to reward. And so the scripture reference I give you here is where he talks about the things that are wood, hay, and stubble in the fire of the judgment. They'll be burned up. They're nothing. But it'll be the silver and gold and precious stones. Just like some of you found some jewels in Mongolia. You found them in Kenya. You found them, all around the world. We have found these precious things that cannot be taken away. That's what we'll be rewarded for. Now, the third word I want to talk about is the word brother. Wow. It's kind of like I was with a pastor in Mississippi one day. He never met a stranger. He was a great soul winner. And we walked into this bank, and he speaks to the teller and asked her, he said, "Ma'am, are you a Christian?" Well, she shot back at him, "I would be if everybody would leave me alone." The truth is, everybody's not going to leave you alone. You're going to have to learn how to deal with brothers and sisters. Amen? Now, your brother is not your enemy. Have you ever fought with a brother? Did anybody win? No, you probably got in problems with your parents because you was fighting with your brother or your sister. Your brother is not your enemy. So don't waste your time fighting with your brother. Boy. And they'll provoke you a lot of times. They'll set you up. And they don't realize it, but the devil is the agitator that's behind that, because if he can get us fussing with each other, It's like David, you know, before he could kill the giant, he had to deal with his brother. And if you're fussing with your brother, you're never going to kill giants. And so remember that. Your brother is not your enemy. What you've got to learn to do is how to work with him. I appreciate the words our brother was sharing concerning the Baptists. I tell you something, the Baptists have some of the finest missionaries I have met anywhere in the world. It's a little quiet right now, but it's true. They are some of the most